What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22 My Team career mode. Last time we were at the Grand Prix of the United States at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, and yeah, it didn't go as well as I was hoping it would go. Unfortunately, we got caught up with the weather and everything, and we couldn't capitalize on our pole position. We ended up going on the wrong tyre strategy, which bumped us all the way down to P5, and then we really struggled on the wet weather tyres as well, which caused us to lose a couple more positions to the cars around us. So we closed that race in P7, but fortunately it was Charles Leclerc's worst race of the season. He was all the way down in P19 at the end, even if he did grab fastest lap, just to take a point off of his rivals. I don't think I was getting it, but yeah, he finished that with the fastest lap. And it's not going to give him any points, but yeah, I guess it's a consolation prize for him. So it did mean that we gained another 6 points over him, and I think that puts us 15 points behind him in the championship now, with just 4 races left to go. We've got Mexico, we've got Portugal, we've got Brazil, and we've got Abu Dhabi. And obviously we're going to start out in the Mexican Grand Prix, which statistically has been a pretty strong circuit for me. I obviously had the first points here in the past, and I've also had another strong points finish in I think it was season 2, when the car wasn't particularly competitive either. So yeah, season 1 and 2 things went quite well. Season 3 had a bit of a hiccup. I was looking like I might be challenging for a podium place, maybe even a win, and then we had an unfortunate DNF at the beginning of the race. So I'm hoping to right the wrong that was done in that season, and hopefully we can close out a strong race win here in season 4, with the hopes that we can maybe look towards regaining the lead of the championship. I don't think it will happen in this race. We're 15 points behind. We'd basically need a Leclerc DNF, or I mean, I guess if I was winning, I'd need him to be no higher than P5, which is possible, but we'll see. We've got a few more parts to adapt here. If you've not been keeping up with what's been going on, we have a regulation change coming in. It affected chassis and powertrain. We've covered off every chassis and powertrain thing now, and all we've got left to do is cover off the durability upgrades. We've got 9 more left to go. Some of them are quite expensive, upwards of 1,000 resource points, so I don't know if we'll cover off all of them, but if we've only got a few left to do, it should be fairly easy to get them all back on the car within the first 4 or 5 races of season 3. So yeah, here's hoping that will be the case. My teammate Théo Pourchaire, I would like to be more in the fight than he's been recently, because with him out of the fight, it's hard for us to win the Constructors' Championship. We're currently, I think, about 50 points down on Ferrari, roughly, and with only 4 races to go, obviously, we're going to need that gap to close up as quickly as we possibly can. So if he can start banging in some good results, that would be good as well. We're here in qualifying now, and it is my first flying lap on a set of fresh soft tyres, and we do a 1:15.6, which is good enough to go fastest initially. It is actually faster than Leclerc's first time, but when I went into the garage, enough people had done faster times than me that I felt it was necessary to go out again just to cover myself off. I think we would have been absolutely fine, but I thought there's no harm in going for another run. So we improved by about 5/10. It's a 1:15.1 flat, and it's good enough to put us in P1 for the first qualifying session of the day. But we have 2 more sessions that we have to get through, including Q3, which will be the shootout for pole. I was wrong about that being a 1:15 flat, a 1:15.1 flat. Actually, it was a 1:15.099. So yeah, it's a bit of a surprise. But what's more of a surprise is Nicholas Latifi making it through in P13. I think one of the Alfa Romeos was eliminated in Q1 there. So perhaps a sign of Williams starting to catch up with the rest of the pack now, after a season of being fiercely uncompetitive. George Russell is out in the first flying lap of Q2, so I'm not sure what happened with him. Maybe he had a crash or something, I'm not sure, but either way, he's out, and it took me by such a surprise. I actually went over the track. I don't know if you saw that, but it didn't punish me for whatever reason. We do a 1:15.7 on a used set of soft tyres, and that bodes quite well. Makes me feel like we can probably be fairly competitive on a fresh set of softs, which is what we'll bolt on for our second run. And indeed, we do manage to improve again by about sort of 4 or 5 tenths, somewhere around there. And it's good enough for a 1:15.2 this time. Not quite as good as in Q1, but it is enough to put us in P1. So yeah, we we cruised through to Q3 with no real issues, and Leclerc actually on the verge of being knocked out there. He managed to hold on, but Perez is gone, and perhaps the surprise package of the weekend, Yuki Tsunoda, who has made it through in P9. So yeah, props to him. He's actually been having a pretty good run of form lately. I've been seeing he's I don't know, he's been getting into Q3 and contending in the sort of upper ranges of the points in quite a few races. So yeah, Tsunoda having a pretty strong time of things. Russell also surprise elimination perhaps. But yeah, it's looking like Tsunoda's probably comprehensively better than Gasly at the moment. I don't know if anyone else has it where if they've ever done any races on equal performance with the AI turned on. I always feel like Tsunoda is a really strong performer in there, which might be an indicator of the fact that his stats are quite high in the game. I don't know. But either way, here we are now on our final run of Q2. And you can see that we are improving by a hell of a lot. I think we did a 1:15.9 on our first run. It wasn't particularly good, but improving now. We're we're already a second up on our used run. So yeah, it looks like we're going to potentially be in the money here. We improved by a lot. It's a 1:14.7, and very unsurprisingly, that is pole position. So yeah, we beat out Leclerc once again to pole, but the points are scored on Sunday.
Let's review our top three today. Robinson, Leclerc and Théo Pourchaire. Goodbye for now then, but really we're just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
It's a strong performance, not only from myself, but also from Joe, who comprehensively outperforms his teammate. Tsunoda comprehensively outperforms his teammate, and also Ricciardo is ahead of Norris. So yeah, a day for the underdogs, I suppose. I know I'm not the underdog. If Pourchaire had outqualified me, we would be talking. But he did qualify P3, so I'm hoping that he can maybe cause a bit of disruption to Leclerc's race, and maybe we could be seeing Pourchaire maybe P2 being a solid wingman for me, and yeah, we'll find out what is going to happen. But either way, I'm pretty happy with him getting P3. It means that we're going to continue to challenge them in the constructors, especially considering he outqualified Sainz by a long way. So yeah, I'm hoping that he can run a good race himself, and maybe we can, between the two of us, score big points for the team. Obviously for me, the primary objective here is going to be to convert this into a win, but let's find out, I suppose.
It's time then for the Mexico City Grand Prix, a race which gave Honda their first ever victory back in 1965. American Richie Ginther winning from third on the grid. Red Bull have been strong here in recent seasons, but can they keep that record going today? The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, 2.6 miles of track that allows drivers to take full advantage of their cars, reaching speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour, and providing lots of opportunities for overtaking. The circuit features 17 corners, 10 to the right, and the remaining 7 going to the left. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Robinson lines up on pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Théo Pourchaire, Fernando Alonso, Guan Yu Zhou, and Tsunoda. Ricciardo, Verstappen, Norris, and Carlos Sainz. Perez, Gasly, Esteban Ocon, and Russell. Schwartzman, Mick Schumacher, Alex Albon, and Lance Stroll. Lundgaard, Latifi, Oscar Piastri. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. It's just about time to go down to the track for the beginning of the race, but before we do, Anthony Davidson, what types of strategy do you think we can expect for today's event?
Well, there's a lot that both the driver and the team have to keep in mind when going into a race. Tyres, fuel, energy recovery systems, the list goes on and on. But I think the key to today's victory will come down to the pit stop strategy. Come in too soon and you might find yourself needing more than one stop. Too late and you're putting yourself at a disadvantage by spending longer on worn tyres.
We need a good result today if we want to catch Leclerc in the Drivers' Championship.
That we do, Mark. And yeah, we're going to be doing a soft medium strategy here, which I look around and immediately think, have I fucked this up? Because everyone else is going medium hard by the looks of things. So I might be in a teeny weeny bit of trouble here if things don't go my way. If I burn out these tyres too quickly, like I did in Austin, I could be under immense pressure from Leclerc, and it will be a lot harder to defend my position than it was in Austin, because the main straight here is ginormous. It is longer than God himself. So yeah, we really need to hope that this was the correct tyre strategy and that we didn't make a significant blunder here. We're waiting for the grid to line up now, and it looks like they've just about managed it. So here we go. The lights come on. And the lights go out, and we switch to the replay camera once again, so you can see me get a fantastic getaway compared to everyone else. It's to be expected when we're on this compound of tyres. But Pourchaire is already looking like he might be challenging Leclerc there, but he's going to be coming under pressure a bit from Alonso as well. I think Leclerc was looking to potentially go on my inside there. I have to give him a bit of room. You can see he dived really recklessly into the corner, and actually that has allowed Tsunoda to get up into P3, which is fantastic for him. And now we're looking at Piastri all the way at the back, because he is about to get caught up in an incident that you wouldn't believe is going to change the face of this race quite dramatically. But yeah, he plows straight into the back of, I believe that is Robert Schwartzman in the Alfa Romeo, and absolutely smashes his front wing, which causes a safety car to get triggered. This is why everyone's all of a sudden going really slowly and not scrabbling to get past one another. It is because the safety car is out and there's no overtaking. Piastri, unsurprisingly, pulls off to the side of the road, but with the amount of debris that's all over the floor, it is not really too much of a shock that the safety car has been deployed. And I have to say, so in practice, obviously I don't really show you anything I do in practice anymore, but in practice, my tyre wear multiplier was about 0.8, which means basically I was not wearing out my tyres to anywhere near the extent that you would expect, sort of the average tyre wear, I suppose. And so what I kind of inferred from that is that I can take a set of tyres to go for quite a long time. I was already in this race planning on taking a set of medium tyres 25 laps, and it didn't look like they were going to wear out too much on the preview. So I was wondering in that moment whether I should pit onto a set of mediums. But in the end, obviously you can see I decided against it. I thought it's just a tiny bit too early, you know. If it had been like maybe lap sort of 5 or something like that, I might have considered doing it, but yeah, it's probably a tad too early. What that does mean, at least, is that we were able to preserve the tyres a little bit, which will allow us to push a bit harder on them and defend from Leclerc, hopefully, until such time as my tyres wear out and his are still sort of, you know, obviously he gets to preserve his tyres a little bit as well. We're preparing to resume racing, and I am gone. I don't think that was a particularly good restart. You can see that I haven't really dropped Leclerc any, and now he's starting to close me down. So my antics haven't really worked here, and I have to defend to the inside because he's going to come up my outside here and try and make the move stick on me. I'm going to brake a little bit later. I've still got quite a bit of grip in these tyres, fortunately, and that allows me to hold on to P1 for now. But yeah, not the best restart I've ever had. Lap 6 now, we're riding on board with Zhou Guanyu. As I say on board, we're having a look at Zhou Guanyu, and you can see that he makes a very dangerous move there. He swerves, which causes Carlos Sainz to smash into the back of him there as he's retiring from the Grand Prix, and yeah, that causes Sainz's front wing to break off, makes a lot of debris scatter all over the track. You can see that Zhou, of course, is out. But what that does mean is that it's time for another safety car, and the team were telling me before they even knew that there was a safety car, they immediately were jumping on the let's change tyres now train. And the difference between me and everyone else is that I'm on softs and they're on mediums, so it doesn't make economical sense for them to stop at this time. I mean, realistically, if they want to sort of stay competitive with me, they would, you know what I mean? Because they're going to be so far behind me after the pit stop phase if they don't stop now. But something tells me that they're just not going to do that. So I think I have played an absolute blinder here, with a bit of luck from Zhou Guanyu, of course. And yeah, we are going into the pits to fit a set of medium compound tyres to the end. And now it is going to be a game of... So after the pit stop phase, I am going to be drastically further ahead of just about everyone. with the possible exception of Sainz and Perez there that you can see are also stopping as well, although Sainz does have a 5-second penalty for something that I wouldn't really say is his fault. He hit Joe when Joe was swerving to pull off the track, so it wasn't really Sainz's fault, but you know, the game clearly believed it was. But we need to try and get ahead of as many of these cars as we can, because we're going to be a lot further ahead of all the cars in front after they've pitted, but only if we can stay within pit stop range of them. You know, I think they're not stopping for another sort of 8 laps or so yet, so we're going to have to still try and stay within range, which is going to mean that we're going to have to pull off some overtakes on some of the slower cars. You know, we got Aston Martins, Williamses, and a Haas in front of us, as well as an Alfa Romeo as well. So it's going to be difficult. I hold up Albon quite a lot in the final corner there, and I don't actually make it work. I'm getting increasingly worse at these safety car restarts, I've got to be honest. So yeah, it's not the best restart you've ever seen. But here's Perez, and he's trying to challenge me up my inside now. But because Albon is on the inside of the corner as well, Perez swerves to the outside, and I'm almost going to the back of him. I have to swerve to the inside to avoid him, and I turn. It's not really even defense; it's avoidance into attack, and I get past Albon as well as Perez. Here you can see I overtake Lundgaard in a very unconventional position, and we're moving into montage mode now as we move a little bit further. And you can see that Porsche and Leclerc are stopping a lot earlier than I was expecting they would. So I don't know if maybe they had some kind of contact that caused them to have to pit early. But either way, moves me up into 13th, and now we're going to dive up the inside of Magnussen and into 12th place. And yeah, we're already looking like we might be in the points. But if Porsche and Leclerc have already stopped, they're going to come out a long way behind me. I don't know what the exact gap is going to be like, but yeah, they are basically nowhere to be seen. You saw me overtake Latifi in an unconventional spot, and then I go for a very opportunistic dive bomb there on Mick Schumacher. Somehow don't get a warning for track limits. I guess we must have just been in the confines of the track in that moment. But yeah, now I'm looking to get past Lance Stroll. You might remember that me and him had a famous battle for P9 in Season 1 for me to get my first points. And yeah, now I overtake him with relative ease. As we move into the DRS straight there. Now I'm trying to get past Russell, but Russell is diving up the inside of Ocon. I'm trying to go around the outside of Ocon, which turns to the inside for the following corner, and that has allowed me to make that move. And now I'm going to try and go up the inside of Ocon at the ensuing corner, and we indeed made that move work as well. And we find ourselves up into P7 now. I'm just picking off drivers left, right and centre. You know, the safety car restart was only 3 laps ago, and already I've made up 10 spots. And now we're going to try and go past Tsunoda, who's going incredibly slow. I don't know if his tyres are worn or what's going on there. And now there's a yellow flag in front of us as well. So on lap 11, I think this is Alonso retiring from the Grand Prix, you can see here, which is unfortunate for him. He was running in quite a strong position, actually. But yeah, this means in lap 11 alone, I have made up 5 places, which is absolutely absurd. And now as we move towards the end of the DRS straight on lap 12, you can see me going up the inside of Ricciardo here. I'm going to try and go around the outside. And all these guys on their worn tyres are just absolutely no match for me on these fresh mediums. You know, I've got a faster car anyway, but that's not the only thing that's helping me out here. It's also the tyres as well. And now as we move to the end of lap 12, you can see Gasly and Norris are pulling into the pit lane, and that is me up into P2 and only 5 seconds down on the only person who could challenge me in this race, Max Verstappen. So yeah, I do double check just to make sure that he is not, you know, already stopped or any ridiculousness like that. It wouldn't be the first time that's happened to me in my career. And indeed, I get the information that his tyres are 12 laps old, and he will be stopping at a later point in this race, probably within a few laps of this one. So yeah, that was a nice montage of me making my way up from P17 to P2 with relative ease. I think there was only about 4 pit stops that happened in that time. So how many overtakes is that? 11 in the course of about 4 laps. Not bad. Yeah, so if you like that, make sure that you subscribe to see plenty more overtaking action in future races. But yeah, now we're sort of cruising. You know, I'm not really pushing too hard. I'm trying to make sure the tyres go to the end, which is why perhaps you see Verstappen is pulling away from me a little bit, despite the fact that he's on much worn tyres. I'm just not really trying too hard. I know that he and Ricciardo, I think, both have to stop again. So my nearest rival in this race is probably going to be Verstappen post pit stop. which is kind of absurd to say, but we'll see where he shakes out after this pit stops happen. Ricciardo's coming in as well, and yeah, that moves us into a very comfortable lead in this race. I think I would have to actively try not to win this race now, quite frankly. I'm going to be significantly further ahead of him. You're going to see now he comes out of the pits probably around this point, and I'm about 17 seconds ahead of him. So he'd have to make up 1 second per lap on his fresh hards if he wants to get ahead of me. Leclerc shakes out of the pit stop phase, and after all is said and done, he moves up into P4 ahead of his teammate Carlos Sainz, who I think actually had to stop again. So yeah, it'll be 12 points for Leclerc in this state unless he can get past Ricciardo, and it'll be 26 points for me unless someone robs me of fastest lap. So I'll be gaining another 14 points on Charles Leclerc here as things stand, which is going to move me within 1 point in the championship if I'm not mistaken. I'm still pretty much just cruising at this point, you know, I'm not pushing too hard. I just want to make sure the tyres go to the end. After all, we are doing 30 laps on these hard tyres, even if a couple of them were under the safety car. It's still a long way to take a set of mediums. I think I said hard just now, but it is a set of mediums. So yeah, we've played a pretty good strategy here. We ended up benefiting from the fact that we were on the soft tyres, and you can see as we move on to lap 30 that Verstappen basically is just, you know, he's making up a tiny bit of time on me, maybe sort of a few tenths every lap roughly, but it's nowhere near as much as he needs to be making up on me if he wants to get into this final P1 position. I was going to say final podium position, but I'm in P1, so I had to try and play that off as if I was trying to say that all along. But we yeah, I think we're in a very comfortable spot in this race, quite frankly. I can't see a world in which we're going to be challenged, and as we come onto the final lap, you know, we're moving into the final sector now through the sort of twisty section. You know, I'm just taking it nice and slowly. We're not pushing really hard. I don't want to risk getting any penalties. I think we already had a couple of corner cutting warnings by this point. I know it's only going to be 3 seconds, which in the grand scheme of things isn't a big deal, but you know, it's better to hold off. I got jump scared just then listening to those fireworks going off. What the hell are they doing setting off fireworks in the middle of the day? It's overcast. You wouldn't even be able to see them anyway. But, you know, who am I to judge? At the end of the day, we cross the line. We don't get fastest lap, so it's only a 13-point gain on Leclerc. But that moves me to within 2 points in the championship of my championship rival. And a good result in the following race will be enough to move me into the lead of the championship. So we are really close now.
And with that, we wrap up yet another incredible Grand Prix weekend. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on track was: speed. I know it sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
The faces on our top 3 look so incredibly happy as they make their way up to the podium. A much-deserved victory and a brilliant performance from them all.
It was a pretty brilliant performance. I think, to be fair, you know, this is one of those podiums where I think most people are going to be pretty happy. Ricciardo definitely doesn't get many podiums, so it'll be happiness for him. I'm happy because it means that we're very close to Leclerc in the championship now, and I think Verstappen, quite frankly, is just happy to be here. You know, he's not in the championship fight this season. He hasn't been pretty much any season. So, yeah, I think he's just content with being on the podium at all.
Let's have a quick look at how the driver standings have changed. Our championship leader is still sat at the top of the standings, but their rivals have made up some solid ground today. Well, after an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
Let's give it to Esteban Ocon. That was a commanding performance today. Very impressive indeed.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. The lead at the top comes down after a strong weekend from the challenging pack. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
32 points is the gap now. That is definitely a deficit that can be overcome in 3 races. It will take a lot, you know. Me and Teo will have to have some very strong performances, but 32 points is definitely a deficit that could be overcome. Could we do the double in season 4 of my team career mode? I am honestly very nervous now. I'm honestly more nervous for the constructors than the drivers. I need to put in as many inspired performances as I can. I don't think I've ever won a sprint race in this game, actually. So maybe Brazil is the time that I will finally have to do that. You know, Imola's never been a strong circuit for me, so I can't see how I would have won any sprint races there. Austria, I remember the first season that I got a win, I think it was season 3 I got a win there. I finished like 8th in the sprint race or something like that, and then just had a brilliant recovery drive in the race that followed. And then obviously I remember historically my Brazil sprints have never been particularly strong. It's always the race weekend where I find some form due to perhaps a safety car or something like that. We're going to need that to be different this time. I'm going to need to try and claim my first sprint race win here in Brazil. You know, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys. I have been driving at a level in this game which I don't think I've ever driven before. I am pushing so hard, especially in qualifying. I am driving at a level in qualifying that I really didn't know I was capable of, quite frankly. I'm having so many qualifying sessions where on my final runs I've been improving by, you know, 5/10, 6/10 over a run that I already thought was pretty good. And it is surprising me slightly, I have to admit. You know, when I'm improving by that much, I'm just like, how am I doing this? You know, I really don't know how I'm making up this much time. So yeah, I am giving 100%. I am legitimately emotionally invested in winning this virtual Formula 1 championship. As sad as that might be to say, I think about it a lot, even when I'm not playing the game. You know, I'm thinking about, man, I'm looking forward to doing the next race because I'm really keen on winning this championship. You know, it's always difficult when you start a season because you're like, oh man, it's a really long season ahead. You know, I don't know if I'm going to be motivated to do 22 races or whatever. But by the time it gets to sort of race 3 or 4, I'm like, oh man, I am so in this championship fight and I'm so invested in the outcome of what's going to happen. You know, last season when our car slowly fell off over the course of the season, it was a hard pill for me to swallow. And this season, you know, it feels like every time we get within touching distance of maybe putting one of our rat claws on that trophy, something happens to kind of move me further out of contention for it. So, you know, it's kept this season exciting for pretty much the whole season that's run so far, and now we've only got 3 more races and we're only 2 points behind. So you don't want to miss what's coming up next. That's all I will say on that matter. But for now, that is going to be it. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.